Lisa Martinez wiped down the counter for the third time that morning. The Moonbeam Café was quiet, like it always was before the morning rush. She liked these peaceful moments before the day got crazy. The smell of fresh coffee filled the air, and the warm lights made everything feel cozy. She was half elf, though most people couldn't tell unless they looked closely. Her ears were just a little pointed at the tips, and she usually kept her brown hair long enough to hide them. Her mother was human. Her father was an elf from the forest colonies. Growing up between two worlds had taught her to notice things others missed. The bell above the door chimed. Lisa looked up and smiled. It was him again. The quiet man with silver-white hair and strange blue eyes. He came in every single day at exactly 8:30 in the morning. He never spoke, just pointed at what he wanted on the menu and paid with credits that never left a trace in the system. "Good morning," Lisa said, like she always did. The man nodded and walked to his usual table by the window. He was tall and thin, probably around 6 feet. His skin was pale, almost white, and his hair looked like moonlight. His clothes seemed normal at first, but Lisa had noticed they changed color slightly in different light. Today his shirt looked gray, but when he moved, it showed hints of blue and silver. Lisa poured coffee into a white cup and grabbed a blueberry muffin from the display case. She walked over to his table and set them down. The man looked up at her with those bright blue eyes and nodded once. No smile, no words, just that small nod. "You're welcome," Lisa said softly. She had tried many times to start a conversation with him, but he never responded with words. Still, she felt comfortable around him. There was something peaceful about his presence, like standing near a calm lake. Lisa went back to work, cleaning tables and getting ready for the busy morning crowd. The man sat quietly, reading from a small book. The writing in it looked strange, with symbols that twisted and curved in ways that hurt to look at for too long. She had never seen anything like it, and the universal translator in the cafe couldn't make sense of it either. At 9 o'clock, the morning rush began. Workers from the spaceport came in for their daily coffee. Traders and travelers grabbed quick breakfast before catching ships to other worlds. The cafe filled with voices speaking a dozen different languages. Humans, blue-skinned Altarians, tall Centaurians with crystal features, and other alien species all mixed together, but the quiet man just kept reading his book, sipping his coffee slowly. He seemed to exist in his own bubble of silence, separate from the noise around him. Lisa noticed something strange during the busy hour. Whenever customers got angry or upset, they seemed to calm down if they sat near the quiet man's table. A merchant who was yelling about shipping delays suddenly lowered his voice and started speaking normally. A couple arguing about money just stopped and held hands instead. It happened every time, but the man never looked up from his book. Around 10 o'clock, most of the morning crowd had left. Lisa was wiping tables when she heard a crash. The quiet man had knocked over his coffee cup, and it had broken on the floor. She quickly grabbed a towel and hurried over. "Don't worry about it," she said, kneeling down to clean up the mess. "Accidents happen." The man bent down to help pick up the broken pieces. That's when Lisa saw his hand was bleeding. A sharp piece of the cup had cut his palm, and red blood was dripping onto the floor. "Oh no, you're hurt," Lisa said. She stood up quickly. "Let me get the first aid kit." But when she looked back, the man was staring at his hand with a confused expression. The cut was gone. Not healing, not scabbed over, just completely gone. There wasn't even a mark where it had been. Lisa blinked hard, wondering if she had imagined the whole thing. The man looked at her for a long moment, those blue eyes seeming to see right through her. Then he gathered the broken pieces of the cup and handed them to her. He left money on the table and walked toward the door. "Wait," Lisa called after him, but he was already gone. That afternoon, Captain Amy Rodriguez from the Colony Defense Force came into the cafe. She was a tough woman with short black hair and scars on her hands from years of military service. Lisa had served her before, and Amy was always polite but serious. "I need to ask you about your customers," Amy said, sitting at the counter. "We detected an unregistered ship in the system. The signal keeps moving, but our sensors say it's somewhere near here." Lisa poured her a cup of coffee. "I haven't seen anything unusual." Amy pulled out a small scanner and turned it on. The device beeped softly as she moved it around the cafe. Everything seemed normal until she pointed it toward the table by the window where the quiet man usually sat. The scanner started making loud, angry noises. The screen flashed red and then went completely blank. "What the hell?" Amy said, shaking the device. She tried turning it off and on again, but it wouldn't work properly. "This thing was fine 5 minutes ago." Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. She looked at the empty table where the quiet man had been sitting just hours before. The coffee stain from his broken cup was still there, but everything else seemed normal. Amy tried her scanner a few more times, but it kept making strange noises and showing error messages. Finally, she gave up and put it away. "If you see anything suspicious, call me right away," she said, leaving her contact information. After Amy left, Lisa couldn't stop thinking about what had happened. The man's hand healing instantly, the way people calmed down around him, and now Amy's scanner breaking near his table. Nothing about him made sense, but she couldn't shake the feeling that he wasn't dangerous. If anything, he seemed sad and lonely. The rest of the day passed slowly. Lisa kept looking at the clock, wondering if the quiet man would come back tomorrow. She hoped he would. Despite all the strange things that happened around him, she realized she looked forward to seeing him every morning. In a cafe full of travelers passing through, he was the one constant in her day. As she closed up that evening, Lisa looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there was an unregistered ship that had Amy worried. Somewhere out there were answers to questions she didn't even know how to ask. But tomorrow morning at 8:30, she hoped the quiet man with silver hair would walk through her door again, nod politely, and order his usual coffee and muffin. She had no idea that her simple, peaceful life was about to change forever. 3 days passed without any sign of the quiet man. Lisa found herself watching the door every morning at 8:30, but he never came. The cafe felt different without him, less peaceful somehow. Even the other customers seemed more on edge. The 4th day, he finally returned. Lisa felt relief wash over her when she saw that familiar silver hair and pale face. He looked tired, more tired than usual, with dark circles under his bright blue eyes. "The usual?" Lisa asked as he sat at his table by the window. He nodded, just like always, but something was different. His shoulders were slumped, and he kept looking around the cafe as if he was worried about something. Lisa brought him his coffee and muffin, but this time she didn't leave right away. She sat down across from him, something she had never done before. "You look tired," she said gently. "Are you okay?" The man stared at her for a long moment. His blue eyes seemed to see everything about her, including the pointed tips of her ears that she usually kept hidden. Then, for the first time in 3 months, he spoke. "Thank you for your kindness." His voice was unlike anything Lisa had ever heard. It was deep and soft at the same time, with an accent she couldn't place. When he spoke, the air itself seemed to vibrate, and she felt a strange tingling in her chest. Lisa blinked in surprise. "You can talk." "Yes," he said simply. "I choose not to, most of the time." "Why?" He was quiet for a moment, looking down at his hands. "Because words have power, more than you know." Lisa didn't understand what he meant, but she could hear the sadness in his voice. "What's your name?" "Kale," he said. "And you are Lisa Martinez, daughter of Maria Martinez and Elder Finn of the Andorian forests." Lisa's mouth fell open. She had never told anyone in the cafe about her father or where he came from. Very few people even knew she was half-elf. "How do you know that?" "Your heritage shows in ways that most cannot see," Kyle said. "But I am not most people." Before Lisa could ask what he meant, the cafe door opened with such force that the bell above it rang like an alarm. 3 women walked in, and Lisa knew immediately that they were not ordinary customers. The first woman was tall with blue skin and silver markings along her arms. She wore a military uniform that Lisa didn't recognize, with symbols that seemed to shift and change when she wasn't looking directly at them. Her hair was black and pulled back in a tight bun, and her eyes were sharp and alert. The second woman was even taller, with skin that looked like it was made of pale crystal. Her hair was white and seemed to glow with its own light. She moved. with impossible grace, as if she was floating rather than walking. Her clothes were simple, but made from fabric that sparkled like stars. The third woman was human, but unlike any human Lisa had ever seen. Her red hair was streaked with silver, and one of her arms was clearly mechanical. Her left eye glowed with a soft blue light, and when she turned her head, Lisa could see small lights blinking under her skin. She wore a pilot's jacket covered in patches from places Lisa had never heard of. All three women stopped walking the moment they saw Kale. Their faces changed from determination to shock to something that looked like fear. The blue-skinned woman dropped to one knee immediately. The crystal woman and the human pilot followed, both kneeling in the middle of the cafe. Other customers stopped what they were doing and stared. The few aliens in the cafe suddenly looked nervous, and some of them started bowing their heads. Only the humans seemed confused by what was happening. Kyle closed his eyes and let out a long breath. "Please rise," he said in that strange, powerful voice. "You are causing a scene." The three women stood up, but they kept their heads lowered respectfully. The blue-skinned woman stepped forward. "Your Majesty," she said in accented English, "we have been searching for you for months. The council grows worried." Lisa felt like the world was spinning around her. "Majesty? Who was Kale, really?" "I am not ready to return, Commander Zara," Kale said calmly. "I told you this when I left." The woman called Zara looked frustrated. "Sir, with respect, the situation has changed. The Draconian Empire is making threats. The hegemony of Zephyr has stopped answering communications. 3 systems are preparing for war." The crystal woman spoke next, her voice like wind chimes in a soft breeze. "The balance you created is breaking apart, Sovereign. The peace accords are failing without your presence." Lisa's head was spinning. Sovereign? Empire? What were these people talking about? The human pilot with the mechanical arm stepped forward. "Look, I get it," she said in a voice that sounded tired but determined. "I really do. Sometimes you just want to run away from everything and pretend to be normal. But people are going to die if this keeps up." Kale looked at each of the 3 women, then at Lisa. She could see conflict in his blue eyes, like he was fighting with himself about something important. "Lisa," he said softly, "I owe you an explanation." Lisa nodded, not trusting herself to speak. Her quiet morning regular was apparently some kind of king or ruler, and these women had traveled across space to find him. "I am not from your world," Kale began. "I am not even from this galaxy originally. My people are called the Eternals, and we are very old. For the past 800 years, I have served as the sovereign of the Galactic Alliance, keeping peace between thousands of different species and worlds." Lisa stared at him. 800 years? He looked like he was maybe 30 years old. "The job is difficult," Kale continued. "Every day I make decisions that affect billions of lives. Every choice I make can start wars or end them. I grow tired of the responsibility, of always being watched, of never being allowed to just exist as myself." The crystal woman, who Kyle had called Maya, spoke again. "That is why you came here, to this small colony on the edge of known space, to pretend to be normal. And you found it," Zara added, looking at Lisa with curious eyes. "You found normal in this cafe? With her?" Lisa felt heat rise in her cheeks. "I don't understand. I'm just a barista. I serve coffee and clean tables. How could I help someone who rules a galaxy?" Kyle smiled for the first time since she had known him. It was a small, sad smile, but it was real. "You treated me like a person, Lisa. Not a symbol, not a ruler, not someone to fear or worship. Just a tired customer who needed coffee and a friendly face." The pilot laughed, but it wasn't a mean laugh. "That's exactly what he needs. I'm Kelly Shaw, by the way. I pilot ships for people who need to get places fast and quiet." "Dr. Maya Foster," said the crystal woman. "I study the effects of power on different species. Kale's situation is unique. In the galaxy." "Commander Zara Hayes," said the blue woman. "I lead the Sovereign's personal guard when he lets me." Lisa looked around the cafe. Other customers were pretending not to listen, but she could tell everyone was paying attention. This was the most exciting thing that had happened on New Terra Colony in years. So you're really the ruler of the galaxy? Lisa asked Kale. One of several galaxies, actually, he said, though I prefer to think of myself as a mediator. I help species work together instead of fighting. And now everyone is fighting because you're not there? Kale nodded sadly. It seems that way. Lisa looked at the three women who had come to find him. Zara looked worried but determined. Maya seemed sad but understanding. Kelly looked impatient but caring. They had traveled across space to bring him home, but they were being respectful of his choices. What happens if you don't go back? Lisa asked. War, Zara said simply. Millions will die. The peace we have built over centuries will crumble. And what happens if you do go back? Lisa asked Kyle. Kyle was quiet for a long time. I returned to my cage, he said finally. Golden, comfortable, but still a cage. Lisa understood then why. He looked so tired all the time. The weight of ruling a galaxy was more than any one person should have to carry, even someone who lived for hundreds of years. Maybe, she said slowly. There's another way. Lisa closed the cafe early that afternoon. She hung a sign on the door that said private meeting and locked it behind the last customer. Kyle and the three women sat around the largest table, and Lisa brought them all coffee and sandwiches. Tell me everything, she said, sitting down with them. I want to understand what's really happening. Zara pulled out a small device that projected a three-dimensional map of space above the table. Thousands of tiny lights represented star systems, connected by glowing lines that showed trade routes and communication networks. This is the Galactic Alliance, Zara explained. Over 3,000 species working together. Before Kale became sovereign, these species fought constantly. Wars lasted for centuries. Billions died. Maya touched one of the lights, and it grew larger, showing a beautiful blue and green planet. This is Altair Prime, my home world. 50 years ago, we were at war with the Draconian Empire. They wanted our crystal technology. We wanted their mineral resources. The fighting went on for decades. Kelly pointed to another system. And this is the Outer Rim, where I'm from. We were caught in the middle, being used as a battleground by bigger powers. My home station was destroyed when I was 12. Lisa studied the map. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time, showing both the connections between worlds and the potential for conflict. How did one person stop all this fighting? She asked Kyle. Kale stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. My people, the Eternals, are very old. We were among the first species to develop space travel. Over time, we learned that fighting only brings more fighting. We developed abilities that others do not have. What kind of abilities? We can sense the emotions and intentions of other beings, Kale said. We can project feelings of calm and peace. When species are about to go to war, an Eternal can often help them find another way. Maya nodded. But it's more than that. Kale doesn't just stop fights. He helps species understand each other. He learns their languages, their cultures, their fears and hopes. Then he helps them see that they have more in common than they think. It sounds like important work, Lisa said. Why do you want to leave it? Kyle turned back to face them. Because I have been doing it for 800 years, Lisa. I have prevented thousands of wars, saved billions of lives, and helped build something beautiful. But I have never been allowed to live my own life. Zara looked uncomfortable. Sir, you know we don't mean to imprison you. But the Alliance needs... The Alliance needs a symbol, Kyle interrupted, but his voice wasn't angry, just tired. They need someone they can point to and say, he will keep us safe. But symbols are not people, Zara. They are things, Lisa began to understand. You came here because you wanted to be a person again. Just someone who drinks coffee and reads books. Yes, Kyle said simply. For 3 months, I was just a customer in your cafe. No one asking me to solve their problems or make impossible decisions. No one bowing or calling me sovereign. Just peace. Suddenly, Kelly's communication device started beeping urgently. She looked at it and her face went pale. We've got a problem. A big one. The device projected a news report in the air above the table. A serious-looking human reporter was speaking rapidly. The Draconian Empire has officially withdrawn from the Galactic Peace Accords. citing the continued absence of the sovereign as proof that the alliance is weak. Emperor Drax issued a statement claiming that the Empire will take back territories that rightfully belong to them. The report continued with images of massive warships gathering at the edge of draconian space. Maya's crystal features darkened with worry. "It's starting," she whispered. "The wars are starting again." Zara stood up quickly. "Sir, we need to return immediately. If we can get you back to the council chambers within the next few days, we might be able to stop this before it gets worse." But Kelly was shaking her head as she read more reports on her device. "It's not just the Draconians. The hegemony of Zephyr just mobilized their entire fleet. The Centaurian Republic is calling for emergency military funding. Half the Alliance is preparing for war." Lisa felt sick to her stomach. "All because Kale isn't there?" "The peace was always fragile," Maya explained sadly. "Many species only work together because they trusted Kale to be fair. Without him there to mediate, old fears and hatreds are coming back." Kyle sat down heavily in his chair. 800 years of work, falling apart in 3 months. "There's something else," Kelly said, her voice grim. "Long-range sensors are picking up movement at the galactic edge. Ships that don't match any known Alliance technology." Maya's crystalline skin went completely white. "The Void Seekers? Who are the Void Seekers?" Lisa asked. Zara answered, her voice tight with fear. "An ancient enemy. They come from the space between galaxies. For millennia, they have tried to invade and consume everything in their path. The Alliance has kept them at bay, but only because we were united. If the Alliance falls apart," Maya continued, "if the species start fighting each other again, we won't be able to defend against the Void Seekers." "How long do we have?" Kale asked. Kelly checked her readings again. "Their advanced scouts are still months away, but if they're moving now, it means they sense weakness. They're testing our defenses." Lisa looked around the table at these 4 people who carried the weight of the galaxy on their shoulders. Kyle, tired and lonely but incredibly powerful. Zara, a warrior trying to protect people she cared about. Maya, a scientist who understood the bigger picture. Kelly, a pilot who had seen war and didn't want to see it again. "What if you go back?" Lisa asked Kale. "What if you return and stop the wars?" "Then I resume my role as a living symbol," Kale said. "I sit on a throne and make decisions for billions of people. I mediate disputes and keep the peace. And in a few more centuries, I will be so tired that I will want to disappear again." "But if you don't go back?" "Then everything falls apart," Zara said bluntly. "The wars will spread. Millions will die. Eventually, the Void Seekers will invade and destroy everything we've built." Lisa was quiet for a long time, thinking. These people had a choice between 2 terrible options. Let Kyle sacrifice his personal happiness to save the galaxy, or let the galaxy fall apart so he could be free. "There has to be another way," she said finally. "What do you mean?" Maya asked. Lisa stood up and started pacing around the cafe, the way she did when she was thinking hard about something. "You said the problem is that people need Kale as a symbol, right? They need to know he's there, keeping the peace." "Yes," Zara said slowly. "But the real work of governing is done by the Council and the individual species governments?" "Mostly, yes," Maya agreed. "Kale's main role is to mediate disputes and make final decisions when species can't agree." "So what if he didn't have to be there all the time?" Lisa asked. "What if there was a way for him to do his job without giving up his life?" Kelly leaned forward, interested. "What are you thinking?" "I don't know yet," Lisa admitted. "But there has to be a middle ground. Some way to keep the peace without trapping Kale in a golden cage." Kale was looking at her with something like hope in his blue eyes. "You really think there might be another option?" "I think smart people working together can solve almost any problem," Lisa said. "And I think you're all much smarter than you realize." Maya smiled, the first real smile Lisa had seen from her. "She's right, you know. We've been thinking about this as an either-or choice, but maybe it doesn't have to be. The immediate problem is stopping the wars that are about to start," Zara pointed out. "We can worry about long-term solutions later." "No," Kyle said firmly. If I'm going to return, I want to return with a plan. I won't spend another 800 years trapped in the same cycle. Lisa felt a strange excitement building in her chest. For the first time since learning who Kyle really was, she felt like maybe there was hope. Maybe they could find a way to save the galaxy without destroying the man she had come to care about. Then let's figure it out, she said. All of us, together. They spent the rest of the day and most of the night in the cafe, planning and arguing and trying to find a solution. Lisa kept the coffee coming while the others worked on ideas that could change the fate of the galaxy. Maya had connected her portable computer to the cafe's communication system, giving them access to real-time reports from across the Alliance. The news kept getting worse. The Draconian Empire just attacked a mining station in the neutral zone, Kelly reported, reading from the latest updates. They claim it was always their territory, but it's been neutral for 60 years. Zara was studying military reports on her tablet. The hegemony of Zephyr is moving warships toward the Centaurian border. Both sides are claiming self-defense, but neither is backing down. It's happening exactly like it did before, Maya said sadly. Old territorial disputes, old grudges, old fears. Without Kale there to remind them why they worked together in the first place, they're falling back into the same patterns that caused centuries of war. Lisa watched Kale as he listened to the reports. His face was calm, but she could see the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders again. Every ship that moved, every threat that was made, every life that might be lost. He felt responsible for all of it. What if you sent a message? Lisa suggested. Let everyone know you're still alive and still committed to peace, but that you're working on a new way to govern? It might buy us some time, Zara agreed, but not much. The species that are moving toward war have been looking for an excuse for decades. They won't wait long for promises. Kyle stood up and walked to the window again. Outside, the stars looked peaceful and beautiful, giving no hint of the conflict brewing among them. There is one option we haven't discussed, he said quietly. What's that? Lisa asked. I could return immediately and use my full power to force peace. Maya looked shocked. Sir, you've never done that before. The Alliance was built on cooperation, not force. What do you mean by full power? Lisa asked. Kyle turned back to them, and for a moment his blue eyes seemed to glow with inner light. Eternals can do more than just sense emotions and project calm. We can influence minds directly, make people think and feel what we want them to. I could end the conflicts instantly by forcing the leaders to want peace. Kelly shook her head. That's not peace. That's mind control. It would work, Zara said, but she sounded troubled. The wars would stop, the Void Seekers would stay away, billions of lives would be saved. And free will would end, Maya added. If Kale starts controlling minds, where does it stop? How is that different from the tyranny we fought against centuries ago? Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. She could see the temptation in Kale's eyes, the desire to just make all the problems go away with a thought. But she could also see the horror of what that would mean. You'd become exactly what you never wanted to be, she said softly. Not a mediator or a peacekeeper, but a dictator. Even if you had good intentions. Kale nodded slowly, and in time, I would convince myself that it was necessary, that people couldn't be trusted to make their own choices. The power would corrupt me, just like it has corrupted others. So that's not an option, Kelly said firmly. We stick to the original plan. Find a way to maintain peace without trapping you or controlling anyone. Suddenly, every communication device in the cafe started ringing at once. Maya answered hers first, listened for a moment, then went very pale. What is it? Zara demanded. Long-range sensors just detected a massive Void Seeker fleet, Maya said, her voice shaking. They're not months away anymore. They're weeks away and they're moving fast. Kelly checked her own reports and cursed. They must have been closer than we thought. The chaos in the Alliance has drawn them like sharks to blood. How many ships? Kyle asked. Thousands, Maya whispered. More than we've ever seen before. If they attack while the Alliance is fighting itself, we won't stand a chance. Lisa felt like the walls of the cafe were closing in around her. Everything was happening too fast. Wars were starting, ancient enemies were approaching, and the only person who could fix it was being asked to sacrifice everything he cared about. How long do we have before they reach Alliance space? Zara asked. Kelly was doing calculations on her tablet. 3 weeks, maybe 4 if we're lucky. That's not enough time to reorganize the alliance, Maya said. Even if every species stopped fighting right now and started working together, we couldn't prepare adequate defenses in less than a month. Kyle sat down slowly, looking older than Lisa had ever seen him. So the choice is simple. Return now and force peace through mind control, or watch everything burn. No, Lisa said firmly. There's still another option. Everyone looked at her. She felt the weight of their attention, the knowledge that billions of lives might depend on whatever idea she was about to share. What if you don't go alone? She asked Kale. What do you mean? Lisa took a deep breath. You said the problem is that you're trapped by the job, right? You have to be everything to everyone, make every decision, carry all the responsibility. But what if you shared it? Maya leaned forward. You mean delegation? We've tried that before. Most species only trust Kale's judgment. No, not delegation, Lisa said, the idea becoming clearer in her mind. Partnership. What if Kale returned, but not as the lone sovereign? What if he brought advisors who could help share the burden? Zara looked confused. What kind of advisors? Lisa pointed to each of them in turn. A military leader who understands strategy and defense. A scientist who understands how different species think and work together. A pilot who knows the outer systems and the people who get forgotten by big governments. And? Kelly prompted. Lisa felt her cheeks get warm. And someone who's good at seeing problems from the outside, who isn't part of the political system, who can ask the questions that need to be asked? You, Kale said softly. You want to come with us? If it would help, Lisa said. I know I don't have any special powers or training, but I've been watching all of you work together today, and you're amazing. Each of you brings something different, something important. Maybe the Alliance doesn't need one perfect leader. Maybe it needs a team. Maya was nodding slowly. It could work. If the species saw that Kyle was working with trusted advisors, if they could build relationships with more than just him. The Draconians respect military strength, Zara said thoughtfully. They might be more willing to negotiate with someone who understands warfare. And the Centaurians value scientific advancement, Maya added. They've always been suspicious of purely political solutions. Kelly grinned. The Outer Rim colonies have never trusted central government. But they might trust a pilot who's actually been to their systems and knows what their lives are like. And Lisa, Kale said, looking at her with something like wonder in his eyes, you could be the voice of perspective. Someone who asks why, and what if, and is there a better way? Lisa felt excited and terrified at the same time. Would it work, though? Would the Alliance accept a change like that? They'll have to, Zara said grimly, because if they don't, the Void Seekers will destroy everything anyway. Kyle stood up and walked over to Lisa. Are you sure about this? If you come with us, your life will never be the same. You'll be responsible for decisions that affect billions of people. You'll see wonders and horrors that most beings can't imagine, and there's no guarantee that we'll succeed. Lisa looked around the cafe that had been her whole world for the past 2 years. It was small and simple and safe. But outside the windows, wars were starting and ancient enemies were gathering, and people she had come to care about were asking her to help save the galaxy. I'm sure, she said, but I have one condition. What's that? This cafe stays open. Maybe not with me running it, but it stays open as a neutral place where anyone can come for coffee and conversation. The galaxy needs places like this, small, peaceful spots where people can just be people. Kyle smiled. The first real smile she had seen from him since learning who he was. I think that can be arranged. Lisa looked at each of them, Zara with her military bearing and hidden kindness, Maya with her crystal beauty and brilliant mind, Kelly with her scars and determination, and Kale with his ancient wisdom and tired hope. So, she said, how do we save the galaxy? The next morning, Lisa called her cousin Emma Torres, who lived in the next colony over. Emma had always said she wanted to try running a business, and Lisa knew she could trust her to keep the cafe running the way it should be. You want me? To what? Emma said over the video call, her eyes wide with surprise. Run the Moonbeam Cafe, Lisa explained. I have to. Go away for a while. It might be a long while. Go away where? Lisa, you never leave New Terra Colony. Lisa looked over at Kale, who was sitting at his usual table with Zara, Maya, and Kelly. They were planning their journey back to the galactic capital, working out details that would determine the fate of billions of people. "It's hard to explain," Lisa said. "Just trust me, okay? The cafe is important. Keep it open, keep it neutral, and be kind to everyone who comes in, even the strange ones." Emma agreed, though she still looked confused. Lisa promised to send her detailed instructions and enough money to keep the cafe running for years. While Lisa made arrangements for the cafe, the others prepared for departure. Kyle's ship had been hidden in an asteroid field at the edge of the system, using technology that made it invisible to most scanners. Kelly went to retrieve it while Zara and Maya sent coded messages to their contacts throughout the Alliance. "The immediate crisis is getting worse," Zara reported when Kelly returned with the ship. 3 more border skirmishes started overnight. The hegemony of Zephyr just declared a state of emergency. "But there's some good news," Maya added. "Several species are asking for emergency council sessions. They're scared of the Void Seekers, and that fear might be enough to bring them back together." Kelly showed them images of Kale's ship on her tablet. It was beautiful and strange, shaped like a crystal teardrop with no visible engines or weapons. The hull seemed to shift between silver and blue like Kale's clothes. "It's bigger than it looks," Kelly explained. "Eternal technology bends space somehow. There's room for all of us plus a full diplomatic suite." Lisa packed her few belongings into a small bag. She didn't own much: some clothes, a few books, a picture of her parents, and a coffee mug from the cafe. Everything that really mattered to her was either staying with the cafe or coming with her on this impossible journey. As they prepared to leave, Lisa took one last look around the Moonbeam Cafe. Emma had arrived and was already learning how to work the coffee machine. The afternoon crowd was starting to come in: workers from the spaceport, traders, travelers, and locals. All of them talking and laughing and living their normal lives, not knowing that their peaceful existence was hanging by a thread. "Ready?" Kyle asked gently. Lisa nodded. "As ready as I'll ever be." The journey to the galactic capital took 3 days, even with Kale's advanced ship. Lisa spent most of the time learning about the Alliance from her 3 companions. Zara taught her about military strategy and the different fighting styles of various species. Maya explained the science behind interspecies cooperation and showed her records of successful negotiations. Kelly shared stories from the Outer Rim and taught her how to spot when someone was lying or hiding something important. But the most valuable lessons came from Kale himself. In the quiet moments between planning sessions, he told her about the weight of leadership, the loneliness of being responsible for so many lives, and the constant struggle between doing what was right and doing what was easy. "The hardest part," he said as they watched the stars streak by outside the ship's windows, "is that you can never be wrong. When you're making decisions for billions of people, a small mistake can become a catastrophe." "That's why you need help," Lisa said. "No one person should have to carry that alone." "I'm beginning to understand that," Kale admitted. "It took a barista from a small cafe to show me what I should have seen centuries ago." When they reached the galactic capital, Lisa's breath was taken away. The city station was larger than some planets, home to representatives from every species in the Alliance. Ships from 1,000 worlds docked at ports that stretched for miles. Buildings rose in impossible spirals, connected by bridges that seemed to float in empty space. But even in this wonder of cooperation and architecture, Lisa could see signs of the growing crisis. Military ships patrolled the approaches. Emergency broadcasts played on public screens. The representatives hurrying through the corridors looked worried and afraid. "The council is in emergency session," Zara reported as their ship docked. "They're debating whether to send the fleet to defend against the Void Seekers or to try to stop the wars first." "They can't do both?" Lisa asked. "Not with the Alliance falling apart," Maya explained. "Half the species are refusing to send ships for common defense while they're fighting each other." Kyle straightened his shoulders and seemed to grow taller. Lisa could see him putting on the role of sovereign-like armor, preparing to be what everyone needed him to be. "Wait," she said, putting a hand on his arm. "Remember, you're not doing this alone anymore." Kale smiled and relaxed slightly. "You're right. We're doing this together." The council chambers were vast and circular, with seats for representatives from every Alliance species. When Kyle walked in with his 4 companions, the room fell completely silent. Then, slowly, every being in the chamber stood and bowed. "Sovereign," said the council speaker, an elderly centaurian with crystal features like Maya's. "We are grateful for your return. The situation is grave." "I know," Kale said, his voice carrying easily through the chamber. "And I have come back, not just to resume my duties, but to propose a new way forward." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Change was not something the Alliance embraced easily. "The old system placed too much burden on one individual," Kale continued. "It was bound to fail eventually. I propose that we establish a council of advisors to share the responsibilities of leadership." He gestured to Zara, Maya, Kelly, and Lisa. "Commander Zara Hayes will serve as military advisor, coordinating defense against external threats. Dr. Maya Foster will serve as science advisor, helping species understand and work with each other. Pilot Kelly Shaw will serve as outer systems advisor, representing the voices of those far from the capital. And Lisa Martinez will serve as perspective advisor, asking the questions that need to be asked and ensuring we never lose sight of the individuals behind the politics." The chamber erupted in discussion. Some representatives looked intrigued, others worried, others angry. Lisa felt overwhelmed by the attention, but Kale's presence beside her gave her strength. "The immediate crisis must be addressed first," Kyle said, raising his voice above the chatter. "The Void Seekers approach and we are divided. This ends now." Over the next several hours, the new leadership team worked with the council to address the growing conflicts. Zara presented military assessments that showed how vulnerable the Alliance was while divided. Maya shared scientific data about Void Seeker technology and tactics. Kelly spoke about the colonies that would be hit first and hardest if the invasion succeeded, and Lisa asked the questions that made everyone think, "Why are you fighting over territory when there are whole galaxies of space out there? Why are you letting old grudges matter more than your children's future? What would you tell your grandchildren if the Void Seekers destroyed everything because you couldn't work together?" Slowly, agreements were reached. Border disputes were temporarily suspended. Emergency defense protocols were activated. Old enemies agreed to fight side by side against the approaching threat. It wasn't perfect, and it wouldn't last forever without constant work. But it was enough to start rebuilding the unity that had kept the galaxy safe for centuries. 3 weeks later, when the Void Seeker fleet arrived at the edge of Alliance space, they found not a divided collection of squabbling species, but a united defense force ready to protect their home. The battle was fierce and costly, but the Alliance held. Months passed. The new system of shared leadership proved more effective than anyone had hoped. Decisions were made faster because multiple perspectives were considered immediately. Species felt more represented because they could approach different advisors about different concerns. And Kale, while still bearing ultimate responsibility, no longer carried the burden alone. Lisa kept her promise about the Café. The Moonbeam Café became famous throughout the Alliance as a neutral meeting place. Emma expanded it to include a small hotel, and beings from across the galaxy came to experience the peaceful atmosphere where the new form of government had been born. On quiet evenings when the crises were manageable and the galaxy was at peace, Kale and Lisa would sometimes return to New Terra Colony. They would sit at the same table by the window, drinking coffee and reading books, while Emma served other customers who had no idea they were having their coffee made by the cousin of one of the galaxy's most important leaders. "Do you ever regret it?" Kale asked one evening, watching the stars through the cafe window. "Giving up your simple life for all this complexity?" Lisa thought about it, remembering the quiet mornings when her biggest worry was whether they had enough blueberry muffins. Then she thought about the children on 100 worlds who were alive because the Alliance had stayed together, the peace that stretched across thousands of star systems, and the friends she had found in the most unlikely places.